The following video demonstrates how to replace the strut tubes on your Clicgear cart. Now this is going to take about 30 to 45 minutes along with this video, so please block that time out. You'll need a few tools. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver, a 10mm box end or open end wrench or potentially socket, and a 19mm socket preferably, but you can also use an open end or box end wrench. Okay, let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is put the cart onto its side with the wheel up in the air for the side of the strut tubes you're going to replace. So go ahead and do that now. Alright, so now we're going to remove the wheel. Just take the 19mm socket and loosen up that nut. Take it off and pull the wheel off. Make sure that the washer stays on the bolt with that wheel because you're going to need that washer when you replace the wheel. Okay, so we're now going to remove the main strut, and there are two bolts and nuts there. You'll need your 10mm open or box end wrench and your Phillips screwdriver. So put the wrench onto the nuts and unscrew the bolts and remove them and remove the strut pivot. Okay, so now we're going to remove the two nuts and bolts from the lower section of the strut tubes down on the strut plates. And so you use the same 10mm open end or box end wrench and Phillips screwdriver, loosen the nuts and take them off and remove the bolts. The small strut tube will come off and the other will remain there, but we'll take that off in just a moment. Okay, now we're going to remove the main tube from the strut bracket. Just use the Phillips screwdriver to turn the bolt. The nut is recessed so it will come out without a wrench. Pop out the bolt, then pick up on the main tube and pull off the cap and the strut bracket. Okay, so now take your new main strut tube and place the strut pivot and cap back on it to put back on. Okay, so we're going to reassemble the main hinge tube now. So you put it down at the strut plates, slide the bolt through, and thumb tighten the nut. Now, for the next few processes we're going to be doing, we're going to be assembling some of the tubes onto the brackets. Only thumb tighten or loosely tighten the bolts and nuts. Do not fully tighten them at this time. Okay, so we're now going to reassemble the push rod back into place into the strut bracket. So get the bolt and line that up with the push rod and the bracket and slide the bolt through, and then you'll use the Phillips screwdriver to tighten that nut back on. You will not need the open or box end wrench on this because there's a recess for that nut in there, but you may need to hold on to the nut with your hand in order to keep it from moving. Okay, so we're now going to reattach the small strut tube, and you want to put that collar over the larger of the two holes, then slide the bolt through the plates and tube, and then go ahead and retighten the nut onto the bolt with your 10mm wrench and your Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so we're now going to reattach the strut pivot, and so you want to line the holes up with the two strut tubes, place the bolts back in, and then go ahead and retighten the nuts on. So you'll need your 10mm open or box end wrench and your Phillips screwdriver to do that. And get that back tightened up. You do not need to over tighten this, just tighten it snugly. Okay, so it's now time to tighten up those nuts and bolts. So get your 10mm box end wrench and your Phillips screwdriver and tighten up the lower bolts onto the strut plate. Fully tighten those, then tighten the bracket, the bolt onto the bracket, and then you want to snugly but not fully tighten the strut pivot, because if you fully tighten it, it'll make it more difficult to fold up the cart. Okay, it's now time to reassemble the wheel onto the strut pivot. Make sure that the washer is still with the bolt and slide it through, and then tighten up the nut with the 19mm socket. Well, that's it. Congratulations. We hope you found this video helpful, and for more informative videos and to see all of our great products, go to clicgearusa.com.